Hi, I'm Christine, your pediatric feeding therapist, and today's registry video, we are going to talk about formulas. And this is a really important topic, and it's one that you don't really think about so much when you're planning out your baby registry. And I don't actually recommend you put any formulas on your registry because you really don't know what baby is going to react like. A lot of like I think Target, if you get like the baby box, they do sometimes give you some samples of formulas, which might be a better way to go is to get samples. And a lot of the companies will send you free samples, but you really don't know how baby is going to react to food. So even if you're like, no, I'm not planning on breastfeeding, I don't want to do it for whatever reason, I don't necessarily recommend that you invest in buying a whole bunch of formula because you may not end up using it. So I'm going to go over, what to buy, what to avoid, just like the basics of baby formula, because it does get a little bit complicated and it really is very dependent on how baby reacts to the food. Okay. So generally speaking, what to avoid, we want to avoid things that are corn syrup solids as like the first ingredient. A lot of the mainstream brands that you've heard of, like Similac, Gerber, Enfamil, they all kind of start with that ingredient. It's not ideal for sure. And I am going to give you some other options. A lot of these formulas have like these syrup solids, soy and palm oil, really hard on the gut. A lot of them have a lot of synthetic nutrients like folic acid, which is not great for you. Instead, you really want folate. A lot of them have additional additives and preservatives to keep the formula. And that's really just hard on a baby's gut and can not necessarily cause issues immediately, but I feel like more long term, it's not great. A lot of these also have heavy metals in them, right? You've probably heard some formulas getting flagged and recalled for high levels, especially the rice-based or ones that have a lot of rice in them. Anything that doesn't come from a protein source that you recognize, like if it's not from an actual cow, or I know there are like goat formulas as well. We'll touch on that as well. A lot of them are actually completely synthetically made, and their protein sources and their main caloric intake are not great ingredients. So, your generic store formula brands are probably going to have all of this on the back. Soy-based formulas are definitely notorious for this. And just your general ones, sometimes they'll say like a vegetable oil blend, but it's not ideal. Okay. So these are things I would avoid if I was looking at buying baby formula. Okay, so what we do want to look for, anything that says organic, just because it says organic does not mean it's clean. I'm going to show you that in a minute, but it's usually a step in the right direction. We want actually lactose as the main source of the carbohydrate, that rather than those corn syrups. So that's definitely something to look for. Ideally, whole milk, not skim, whole milk or goat milk if tolerated. Anything adding prebiotics, probiotics are definitely going to be helpful because they're not getting that from mom's breast milk, right? Real ingredients, not like long strings of characters that you can't pronounce. That's usually not a great sign. And if it has that DHA or, that fish oil sourced from algae, versus the hexane extracted fish oil. So there are for sure some brands that have this. So we will get into that in a minute. But I just want to go over, there's actually a bunch of different types of formula. So I'm going to go over the 5 main types that you're most likely to encounter. So there's regular cow's milk formula. Okay. That's like your basic, what you think of when you think of formula, probably. Then there is a subset of formula called the hypoallergenic formulas, right? So usually but these can be broken down into more distinct areas, and they are very different. So understanding the differences can really make or break your child's digestion, right? Because a lot of times parents think, oh, they're sensitive to the cow's milk, and they try a bunch of different formulas, but they're all partially hydrolyzed. So you're going to actually have the same problem. So I'm going to explain even in more detail the differences, but for right now, just to know that there are about 5 different types of formulas. So you have cow's milk, then you have like a sensitive one or hypoallergenic one, which is broken down into partially hydrolyzed formulas, extensively hydrolyzed formulas, and amino acid based formulas. And I put these in order of like least sensitive to most sensitive. So kids who are most sensitive are probably going to need something more like an amino acid based formula or an extensively hydrolyzed formula. Partially hydrolyzed is what you think of when you are just saying like, oh, I just got the sensitive one. That's usually just partially hydrolyzed. Anything that is usually on the more expensive side is probably the extensively hydrolyzed or amino acid base. And these are kids who really have a very serious sensitivity or allergy to the cow's milk protein and cannot tolerate it at all. Those would be in the extensively hydrolyzed or amino acid based formulas. Then you have this other category of goat milk formulas, and I am going to go into that. It's a little bit of a controversial topic, but it is something that a lot of parents are seeking out right now. And mostly just because of all of the gunk and stuff that I talked about in the first slide of things to avoid, a lot of parents go to the goat milk side in hopes that it's different enough on their child's system that they can tolerate it and there's less of that not so great stuff in it. So first, let's start with the cow's milk formula. Okay. The better brands, the cleaner brands, Bobby Organic is one. They don't use whole milk though, but it is considered one of the cleaner brands. By Heart Whole Nutrition, Kendamel Organic, Holly Organic, a German brand. You'll find a lot of these are from out of the country because they have stricter standards outside of America. So the Loenzon Organics formula and the Jovier formula, but those you'll see I have a whole chart next. They're not really easy to get. You'd have to get them imported from a different country, which means that they're not FDA approved, right? Because it's approved by a different country, not ours. These are the most common formulas. They're most affordable because they are using cow's milk. These can work well for many, many babies. If your baby is not sensitive, and you need to or want to use formula, these are great options, okay? They're not gonna work for babies that have that cow's milk protein sensitivity, if they're having a lot of reflux, eczema, colic. Then you're gonna wanna move into the next section, which is possibly the either the partially hydrolyzed or extensively hydrolyzed formulas. But I'm just going to show you this chart really fast so you can see, whole milk, By Heart and Kendamel and Jovier all use whole milk, which is great. No palm oil, which is great. No corn syrup. None of these have corn syrup in them, which is awesome. They're all organic. Now, there's only 3 that are available in the US, and actually Kendamel used to be only available, I believe, in Europe, and now it is available in the US. So that's great. But so these are maybe the 3 easiest brands to get, but the rest are going to be things you have to import from overseas. And we have had many parents do just that. So the things to take into consideration. Okay, so let's go into partially hydrolyzed. And you see this picture here of broken glass. So basically what partially hydrolyzed means is the proteins are broken down a little bit. It's like they took a hammer and smashed a mirror, and there's big chunks of glass. So basically what it's trying to do is in some ways trick the body into not recognizing it as a cow's milk protein. So they break it up a little bit in hopes that that's enough to make it comfortable enough for the baby to be drinking. Now, if the baby has a true allergy, a true protein allergy, this is probably not going to work. It's probably still going to cause just as many issues as the regular cow's milk formula. Okay, this might be good for kids with some mild gassiness. They're a little bit fussy. You know, they might have some of those signs of milk sensitivity, like spitting up after. But it's not going to work for kids that are truly have that extreme sensitivity or allergy. Now, unfortunately, there's no completely clean versions of the hydrolyzed formulas, but there are some that are better than others. You know, these are common ones that you're going to see: the Good Start Gentle Pro, Enfamil Gentle Ease, Hip Comfort, Similac 360. I'm going to show you on this chart here. You know, you're not going to find that there's going to be like something, you know, a lot of these have the corn syrup. Gerber Good Start does have lactose in it, as does the Hip. They also add sugar because it, I guess, doesn't taste very good. So a lot of them add, so you see maltodextrin, right? That's added sugar. A lot of them use additional oils, right, to supplement for that lack of fat that you're getting from the cow's milk. We have some with pre and probiotics, right? You know, it's still processed, but Gerber Good Start Gentle Pro is definitely one of the easier ones. It's one of the better ones that's easier to get in the United States. So there are some options here if you need the partially hydrolyzed. Now, extensively hydrolyzed. So as you can see here with this picture of completely shattered glass, okay? So they have now taken the smashed pieces and smashed them into smithereens. This makes the protein molecule almost unrecognizable to the body. And a lot of kids are able to tolerate this level of the protein broken down. Okay, so when they're in these very small, tiny little pieces or peptides, it's definitely easier to digest, but there are, again, no completely clean options. But these are the kids that are very colicky, have eczema, reflux. You know, these are the kids that are going to need this type of a formula if they're not able to have breast milk or are not tolerating breast milk and the parents don't want to make any dietary changes, things like that. As you can see, you know, there's a few choices here. I would say the most popular ones in America are the Alimentum and Nutrimyogen. And now these are specialty formulas. So these are a little bit more costly. And a lot of them really do have those corn syrup solids and palm oils, which can cause some gut inflammation. But, you know, you got to kind of weigh your options here. I mean, are we going to have a very upset, colicky, uncomfortable baby that's having negative associations with meal times or these ingredients? Now, I know that currently in America, the Health and Human Services Secretary, RFK Jr., is actively trying to get these ingredients out of our baby formulas. So hopefully this is not going to be the same in the future. But as of the filming of this right now, this is what is available currently for babies. So, there's not great options here. I'd say the best one is usually the European one, the HIP from Europe. But again, you are probably going to have to import that. It does use lactose, which I love. And it does have pre and probiotics. So that's great. No one else has that. You could always supplement by adding a little prebiotic or probiotic, like a little supplement into the formula, like a little dropper that they make for babies. So you can do that. Amino acid based formulas like Neocate here is, and we're going to talk about that next too, for very, very severe allergies that don't respond to the extensively hydrolyzed, right? So amino acid, they are the smallest building blocks of protein. So this is completely hypoallergenic. There's no cow's milk in here whatsoever. So if babies have severe digestive disorders, severe allergies, that they do not respond well to any of the other types of formulas we just talked about, they'll be put on an amino acid formula, which is usually needed. You probably need a prescription from your doctor to get this. It could also be related to FPIES if baby has FPIES. Again, that would be something to discuss with your pediatrician. These are not natural formulas. They aren't derived from anything in nature. So they're lab made, so that they are very hypoallergenic. But that being said, means that they contain a lot of oils, corn syrup, preservatives, things like that. So now this is why, we do have some options here, again, like the Neocate. Like I said, there's Elacare's fairly popular as well. But you can see that there's really everything, all of it's really the main makeup of it is the corn syrup or sugar syrup, right? Glucose syrup solids. Now, this has led a lot of parents to seek things that maybe are not cow's milk, but goat's milk. Okay, so some parents love this because their babies do find that goat's milk is different enough that it's easy to digest. It's a little bit closer to human milk in terms of the protein makeup and structure and fat. So some infants with some sensitivities can definitely get away with moving to goat's milk, but not all. Now, it's controversial because, it still does contain some lactose, right? So babies can still react to that. And if you have a real protein allergy, it's not really going to do anything to move the needle. It's something that a lot of parents like to try because it is more natural than the amino acid one or the hypoallergenic ones. But it does need to be fortified with folate, vitamin D, and iron. Now, goat's milk on its own, that's why they say it's not nutritionally complete. So because it's naturally low in some of those things. However, they do fortify it. A lot of them now are fortified, or you can fortify it separately on your own with those things. Also, a lot of goat milk formulas still are containing things like extra sugars, palm oils, things like that. So it's not totally hyperallergenic and it's not totally free of all of those not so great ingredients. It could be a good alternative if they're struggling with cow's milk, instead of maybe doing the sensitive, hypoallergenic, partially hydrolyzed. Some parents choose to go the goat milk route. Other things to note, goat milk from Europe definitely has some higher standards and fortification compared to some US brands, and avoid using the powdered form. It's usually not fortified when it's in powder form, although of course things change all the time. So you just have to be able to read the labels. So that is the end of our presentation. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope we were able to go over all of the main things about formulas. It is a bit of a complex topic, but make sure you save this video, because if your child is struggling with eating and formula feeds, knowing exactly what type of formula, which of these would make the most sense to try is going to really save you a lot of time, sleepless nights, and money, because all of these formulas are fairly expensive. So to be constantly going through and being like, nope, that didn't work, nope, that didn't work, can really be, it could really get pricey. So knowing where to focus your time and energy, and why you're choosing specific formulas over others is going to be really important for you. So this is a video that you definitely want to save. And please check out the other registry videos that we have. And again, remember, we're not recommending that you put any of these formulas on your registry specifically. If they have some sort of a formula sample box, that would be amazing to put on your registry, or just gift cards to, places like a pharmacy or a drugstore, where you can then purchase whatever makes the most sense for your baby. But most people at least start out with the regular cow's milk formulas. And then from there, if the baby doesn't respond well, then you would go and change the formula to a different brand, depending on how severe the issues are and how the babies are responding to what they're drinking. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful, and we will see you in another video.